Letting go is easy when you do this. Make detaching easy. You've held on for too long. You've replayed the memories, analyzed the what-ifs, and convinced yourself that letting go is impossible. But is it really? Or is it just a story you keep telling yourself? We don't struggle to let go because something is still good for us. We struggle because we fear losing it. A toxic relationship, a dead-end job, a past version of ourselves. None of these serve us anymore, but we hold on anyway. Not out of love, not out of necessity, but because we've been conditioned to believe that letting go equals failure. But what if you've been looking at it all wrong? What if letting go isn't about losing, but about freeing yourself? What if the weight you've been carrying, the regret, the resentment, the attachment, was never meant to be yours to bear? Psychology proves it. The tighter you cling, the more you suffer. The more you release, the more at peace you become. Letting go isn't about erasing the past or pretending something never mattered. It's about accepting that its time is over and that your future deserves space to breathe. And that's what we're here to do today. On Victory Stoic, we're exposing the truth. Letting go isn't hard. It only feels that way because you keep resisting it. And when you finally learn how to release what no longer serves you, you'll realize that what you thought was a loss was actually your liberation. If you're ready to break free from the past and step into a life of clarity and strength, like, share, subscribe, and comment. I choose freedom. Now let's begin. Number 1, letting go isn't hard. You just think it is. We love to tell ourselves a story, a tragic, dramatic story that makes us the hero of our own suffering. Letting go is impossible. It's too hard. I can't do it. But is it? Or is it just an illusion we've clung to for so long that we've mistaken it for reality? Meet Daniel. Daniel was in a relationship that had expired years ago, but he refused to leave. His girlfriend Emma had checked out emotionally. Their conversations had dried up, their laughter had faded, and every interaction felt like a strained obligation. But Daniel held on. Not because he was happy, not because it was good for him, but because he was terrified of the alternative, being alone. I can't let go, he told himself. It's too hard. But one day the universe, being the mercilessly wise teacher that it is, decided to force his hand. Emma dumped him, and not in a romantic, bittersweet kind of way. She sent a text, a single, cold, indifferent text. I don't think this is working. Good luck with everything. That was it. No long conversation, no deep reflection, just good luck with everything, as if she were wishing him well on a LinkedIn job update. At first, Daniel spiraled. He told himself the same old story. This is unbearable. I'll never move on. He replayed every moment, dissected every conversation, and clung to the fantasy that maybe, just maybe, she would change her mind. But here's where the plot twist happens. One day, Daniel woke up and realized something strange. He was still alive. He had gone through heartbreak, sleepless nights, and all the pathetic post-breakup behaviors, including but not limited to listening to sad playlists and contemplating a tattoo of some deep philosophical quote he didn't fully understand. And yet, he was fine, because letting go was never the hard part. It was only believing that it would be hard that kept him trapped. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view they take of things." The only reason Daniel suffered was because he had convinced himself that suffering was inevitable. And that's exactly what most of us do. We romanticize our attachments, we exaggerate the difficulty of moving on, and we act like letting go requires some monumental strength that only monks and philosophers possess. But in reality, letting go is natural. It's resisting that causes pain. Think about it. Your body lets go every day. You shed dead skin cells, your hair falls out, your body literally regenerates itself without asking your permission. Letting go is built into your existence. So why is it that when it comes to people, jobs, or the past, we suddenly act like we don't know how to do it? The truth is, letting go is only difficult when you're still holding on. The moment you stop clenching your fists around something that's already slipping away, you'll realize something shocking. You were never actually holding on to anything at all. So the next time you tell yourself, I can't let go, Remember Daniel. He thought he couldn't survive without Emma, until he did. He thought the pain would last forever, until it didn't. And one day he found himself standing in front of a mirror, laughing at the absurdity of it all. You don't have to force yourself to let go. You just have to stop telling yourself that it's impossible. And when you do, you'll see how easy it actually is. Number 2, the more you cling, the more you suffer. Humans are not wired to let go easily. Psychologists call it loss aversion. We feel the pain of losing something much more intensely than the joy of gaining something new. This is why people hold on to broken relationships, dead-end jobs, and outdated beliefs. It's not because these things still bring value. It's because the thought of losing them feels unbearable. Take Mark, for example. Mark had been working the same job for 10 years. He hated it. The pay was mediocre, his boss was incompetent, and every morning he woke up dreading the office. But when a better job opportunity came along, he hesitated. What if the new job was worse? What if he didn't fit in? What if leaving meant making a mistake, so he stayed? Not because it was the right choice, but because the idea of losing the familiar was scarier than the possibility of gaining something better. The irony is, holding on didn't make him happy. It only prolonged his misery. Every day he walked into that office, resentful and drained, he wasn't protecting himself. He was actively choosing his own suffering. The same thing happens in relationships. People stay in toxic dynamics not because they're happy, but because they fear the pain of being alone. The idea of losing what they know, even if it's terrible, feels worse than embracing the unknown. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." But bravery isn't just about facing danger. It's about having the courage to stop clinging to things that are dragging you down. The moment you stop holding on so tightly, you free yourself. You don't lose, you gain peace. Mark eventually realized this. After years of suffering, he quit his job, and guess what? The world didn't end. He found a better position, one that challenged and fulfilled him. And when he looked back, he couldn't believe he had wasted so many years clinging to something that was only bringing him pain. So the next time you feel the urge to grip something out of fear, ask yourself, am I holding on because this is good for me, or because I'm scared of losing it? If the answer is fear, then let go. Because real suffering doesn't come from loss, it comes from refusing to move forward. Number 3, what's meant for you will always stay. The universe has a simple rule. If something is truly meant for you, it will never require you to beg, chase, or cling to it. You don't need to force love, manipulate opportunities, or hold on to people who are already halfway out the door. If it belongs in your life, it will stay. If it doesn't, no amount of effort will make it last. Take Sophie. She spent years bending over backward in a relationship that was falling apart. She adjusted her personality, sacrificed her own happiness, and ignored every red flag, just to keep him from leaving. Every time he pulled away, she chased harder, thinking that if she just proved her worth, he would finally stay. But no matter what she did, he kept drifting further. And when he finally walked away for good, Sophie was left exhausted, heartbroken, and asking herself, what else could I have done? The answer? Nothing. Because if she had to work that hard just to keep him around, he was never really hers to begin with. The same applies to jobs, friendships, and opportunities. You don't need to hold on to what's naturally yours. If a company truly values your work, they won't keep you waiting for a promotion that never comes. If a friendship is real, you won't be the only one reaching out to keep it alive. If something is aligned with your path, it will stay effortlessly. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "Never desire something so much that you cannot be happy without it." The moment you realize that you don't need to force what's truly meant for you, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering. Sophie eventually understood this. Instead of chasing people who didn't see her value, she started investing in herself. And suddenly the right people showed up, people who didn't need to be convinced to stay. So if you find yourself clinging to something, stop and ask, am I holding on because it's truly mine, or because I'm afraid of losing it? If it's yours, it will stay. If it's not, let it go. Because no matter how tightly you grip, what's not meant for you will always find a way to leave. Number 4, when you let go, you become more magnetic. People often think that getting what they want requires chasing, controlling, and holding on as tightly as possible. But the truth is, the more you cling, the more you push things away. Nothing repels opportunities, relationships, or success faster than the energy of desperation. Imagine Leo, a man obsessed with finding love. He overthinks every text message, constantly seeks reassurance, and is terrified of rejection. Every date feels like a job interview where he's trying to prove he's worthy of being chosen. The result? Women sense his anxious energy and instinctively pull away. Not because he's unattractive or unworthy, but because his desperation makes him less appealing. Now imagine Daniel, his exact opposite. Daniel is open to love, but isn't obsessed with it. He enjoys his own company, he has a fulfilling life, and he trusts that the right relationship will come naturally. He doesn't overanalyze texts, he doesn't chase, and he doesn't force connections. And what happens? People are drawn to him. His calm, detached energy makes him naturally attractive because he radiates confidence, not neediness. This is the power of non-attachment. When you let go of the need to control every outcome, you shift into a state of trust and ease. This applies to every area of life. In relationships, when you stop clinging, people feel safe around you. They know you want them, but they also know you don't need them to complete you. That balance makes you magnetic. In career and success, the most successful people aren't those who force everything to happen. They're the ones who take action, but trust the process. Desperation clouds judgment, but non-attachment allows clarity. In finances, people who are constantly stressed about money make reactive, fear-based decisions. Those who trust in their ability to create wealth attract better opportunities and make smarter choices. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "If you are distressed by anything external, it is not the thing itself that troubles you, but your judgment about it." When you believe you must have something to be happy, you place yourself in a state of lack. But when you let go, you step into abundance. Leo eventually realized this. He stopped trying to control love, stopped chasing people, and started living his life for himself. And the moment he stopped needing love, that's when it found him. So if you want to be truly magnetic, let go of the need to control. Desperation repels. Confidence attracts. The less you chase, the more comes to you. Number 5. The more you cling, the more you push things away. Have you ever held on to something so tightly that it slipped right through your fingers? That's the paradox of attachment. The more you try to control something, the faster it escapes you. People make this mistake in relationships, careers, and even personal goals. They convince themselves that happiness is tied to a specific outcome: getting the job, keeping the relationship, achieving the dream. But the second you place your happiness in something external, you become desperate to control it. And nothing kills joy faster than the fear of losing it. Take Lisa, for example. She was deeply in love with her boyfriend, but over time her love turned into attachment. She stopped enjoying the relationship for what it was and started obsessing over keeping it safe. She needed constant reassurance. She feared losing him. She tried to control the way he texted, who he spent time with, and what he felt about her. She wasn't loving anymore. She was gripping. And what happened? The more she clung, the more he pulled away. Not because he didn't care about her, but because her desperation suffocated him. She wasn't present in the relationship. She was living in fear of losing it. And fear never attracts, it only repels. This doesn't just apply to love. People do the same thing with success. John, a young entrepreneur, started a business because he was passionate about it. But over time, his passion turned into obsession. He wasn't just working toward success. He was terrified of failure. He micromanaged every detail, stressed over every fluctuation, and lost all the joy that made him start in the first place. The more he feared failure, the more mistakes he made. His desperation created the very thing he was trying to avoid. Happiness doesn't come from controlling outcomes. It comes from living fully in the present moment. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." The moment you stop trying to force life to go a certain way, you remove resistance. Lisa eventually learned this lesson. She stopped clinging, stopped overanalyzing, and let the relationship breathe. And in doing so, she either kept the love naturally or freed herself for something better. John, too, let go of his obsession with control. He started enjoying his work again, and suddenly success became easier. Not because he forced it, but because he stopped resisting the flow of life. So the next time you feel yourself holding on too tightly, ask yourself, am I living or am I just afraid of losing? True happiness isn't in the result, it's in the experience. Let go, live fully, and watch how life naturally falls into place. Number 6, stop fighting reality, accept it, and find freedom. The greatest source of human suffering isn't loss, it's resisting what already is. We exhaust ourselves trying to undo the past, rewrite the present, or control the future. But no amount of wishing, begging, or overanalyzing will change reality. Yet people do it all the time. They fight the truth instead of accepting it. They refuse to let go of relationships that have ended, opportunities that have passed, and versions of themselves that no longer exist. And what do they get in return? Pain, frustration, exhaustion. Take Andrew, for example. He was fired from his job unexpectedly. Instead of accepting it and moving forward, he spent months consumed by anger and regret. He replayed every meeting, every decision, convinced that if he had just done one thing differently, he'd still have his position. He spent more energy resenting the past than looking for new opportunities. And the result? His suffering lasted much longer than it needed to. Then, there's Mia, who got ghosted by a guy she thought was the one. Instead of recognizing that someone who disappears so easily isn't worth her time, she obsessed over why it happened. She scrolled through their old messages, stalked his social media, and tried to decode where it went wrong. But no matter how much she analyzed it, the truth remained. He was gone. And the more she fought that reality, the more miserable she became. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "Amor fati," love your fate, not just accept it, love it. Not because everything that happens is good, but because resisting reality only leads to unnecessary suffering. Andrew eventually realized his job loss wasn't the end. It was an opportunity. The moment he stopped fighting what had already happened, he redirected his energy toward building something better. And Mia? The day she finally stopped replaying the past, she felt lighter, freer, and open to the right kind of love. What's gone is gone. No amount of wishing will bring it back. The only thing you control is how you respond. So the next time you find yourself clinging to something that no longer exists, ask yourself, am I living in reality or am I just refusing to accept it? When you stop fighting the past, you reclaim your power in the present, and that is where real freedom begins. Number 7, letting go isn't hard. Deciding to let go is. Letting go isn't the struggle, it's making the final decision to let go that keeps people trapped. Once you decide truly and completely, it happens effortlessly. But most people don't reach that point easily. They linger in a state of hesitation, holding on to the idea that maybe, just maybe, things could still change. Take Emily. She was in love with someone who never fully committed to her. He kept her around, gave her just enough attention to keep her hoping, but never actually prioritized her. She knew deep down that she deserved better. Yet she didn't leave. Why? Because she hadn't made the final decision to let go. Contrast that with Liam, whose girlfriend cheated on him. The moment he discovered the betrayal, there was no internal debate. He walked away without hesitation. It wasn't because he was stronger than Emily. It was because the truth was undeniable. There was no illusion left to hold on to. This is the real reason letting go feels hard. Most of the time, people don't lack the ability to move on. They lack clarity. If something is obviously toxic, if someone betrays you, abuses you, or blatantly disrespects you, it's easy to leave. But when there's still ambiguity, when there are just enough good memories to cloud your judgment, you get stuck. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." People don't struggle with moving forward. They struggle with the fear of making the wrong choice. They wonder, what if I regret it? What if I'm being too harsh? What if things could still get better? But here's the truth. Indecision is suffering. Staying stuck in limbo, going back and forth between holding on and letting go, is far more painful than simply making a choice. Emily eventually realized this. She stopped waiting for her situation to magically change, stopped debating whether she should stay, and simply chose herself. And once she made that decision, she was free. So if you're struggling to let go, ask yourself, is it really letting go that's hard? Or is it that I haven't made the choice to do it yet? The moment you decide, the weight lifts, the chains break, and you finally truly move forward. Number 8, letting go means accepting that you can't control everything. People struggle to let go because they believe deep down that if they just try a little harder, if they just do one more thing, they can change the outcome. But this is an illusion. The truth is, you can only control your actions, not the results. Think about the last time you waited for a text that never came. You reread your last message, wondering if you should have worded it differently. Maybe if you had responded faster. Maybe if you had been funnier. But no matter how many times you analyze it, you cannot control whether the other person replies. Or imagine standing in front of a vending machine. You put in your money, press the button, and nothing. The snack is stuck. You shake the machine, press the button again, even hit it with your palm. But deep down, you know, the machine isn't broken. You just aren't getting what you want. And yet most people stand there, refusing to accept it, as if their sheer willpower will make the machine obey. This is how people treat relationships, jobs, and lost opportunities. They keep pushing, keep hoping, refusing to accept that some things just won't go their way. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "We control our actions, not the outcome." You can send the message, but you can't make someone reply. You can love someone, but you can't make them love you back. You can work hard, but you can't guarantee success. And the sooner you accept this, the sooner you will be free. The reason letting go feels difficult isn't because it's hard to move on. It's because you're still secretly hoping you can change what has already happened. Once you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you will feel lighter. You will stop waiting for the vending machine to give you what you want. You will stop checking your phone for messages that aren't coming, and you will finally truly move forward. Number 9, the fear of loss is just an illusion. People say they're afraid of letting go, but what they really fear isn't loss. It's losing the illusion they built around something. Think about the last time you hesitated to let someone go. Was it really because they were irreplaceable? Or was it because you convinced yourself they were? Was it really because you couldn't be happy without them? Or was it because you had built your entire sense of happiness around their presence? The truth is, you don't lose people. You lose the fantasy of who you thought they were. Take Jason, for example. He dated Sarah for years, believing she was the one. He tolerated the red flags, ignored his own needs, and stayed long after the relationship had stopped bringing him joy. When she finally left, Jason wasn't just heartbroken, he was terrified. But was he really mourning Sarah? Or was he mourning the idea that she was the only person who could ever make him happy? The person he thought she was never really existed. It was just the version of her he created in his mind. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." We don't suffer because of what we lost. We suffer because of what we thought it meant. Your job isn't your entire identity. That failed relationship wasn't your only shot at love. That missed opportunity wasn't the last chance you'll ever have. The moment you stop believing that losing something means losing everything, you will feel free. Jason eventually realized this. After months of suffering, he woke up one day and saw the truth. He hadn't lost his happiness. He had just placed it in the wrong hands. And once he reclaimed it, the fear disappeared. So if you're afraid to let go, ask yourself, what am I really losing? The person or just my illusion of them? Because once you separate reality from fantasy, you'll see that what you feared was never real to begin with. Number 10, nothing lasts forever, and that's what makes it beautiful. Everything in life is temporary. Nothing stays the same. People change, seasons shift, even mountains erode over time. Yet instead of embracing this truth, we fight against it. We cling to what was, fearing the day it will no longer be. But what if impermanence isn't something to fear? What if it's the very thing that makes life meaningful? Imagine if flowers never wilted. Would you still rush to admire their beauty? Would you still be in awe of the cherry blossoms if they bloomed all year round? The reason we cherish them is because we know they won't last. Now apply that to life. If nothing ever changed, would you truly appreciate the people in your life? Would you wake up with the same urgency to live, to experience, to love? Probably not. The fleeting nature of things is what gives them value. If everything were permanent, nothing would be special. Take Lucas, for example. He spent years fearing change, afraid of losing his youth, his relationships, his sense of security. But one day, after watching his grandmother peacefully pass away, he had a realization. Life is precious not in spite of its impermanence, but because of it. If we lived forever, we would take everything for granted. But because we don't, every moment matters. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." The certainty of death isn't meant to paralyze us with fear. It's meant to wake us up, to remind us to be present, to appreciate, to live fully. Instead of mourning what fades, celebrate that it existed at all. The love you lost, the memories you cherish, the phases of life that have passed, all of it was beautiful because it wasn't meant to last forever. If it was, you wouldn't have treasured it in the first place. Lucas eventually embraced this philosophy. Instead of trying to freeze time, he started to enjoy life for what it was, a constantly changing, unpredictable, but breathtaking experience. So the next time you fear losing something, remember, you were never meant to hold on to it forever. Appreciate it while it's here, and when the time comes, let it go with gratitude. Because the fact that it didn't last, that's what made it special. Number 11, trust the future. What leaves makes space for what's meant to come. Letting go is terrifying for one reason. We don't know what comes next. The human mind craves certainty, and when something leaves, a relationship, a job, an opportunity, our instinct is to panic. What if nothing better comes? What if I never find love again? What if this was my only chance? But here's the truth. Everything that leaves creates space for something better. Imagine you're holding on to an old tattered coat. It's ripped, uncomfortable, and doesn't keep you warm anymore. But you refuse to throw it away. You tell yourself, what if I never find another coat? What if this is the best I'll ever have? So you keep it, even though it no longer serves you. And because of that, you never make space for a new one. This is what people do with relationships, careers, and even their old identities. They cling to what's familiar, even when it's no longer right for them, because the idea of an empty space feels scarier than settling for something that doesn't fit. Take Olivia, for example. She was in a job that drained her, but she stayed because she feared unemployment more than she feared staying miserable. The idea of stepping into the unknown paralyzed her. But when the company laid her off, something incredible happened. She finally had the time and freedom to chase her real passion. Within months, she found a new path that brought her more fulfillment than she ever imagined. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." What you lose is never the end. It's simply a transition. And the sooner you stop fearing the gap between the old and the new, the sooner something better can enter your life. Think about the times in your past when something bad happened. A breakup, a rejection, a failure. At the time, it felt like the worst thing ever. But looking back, wasn't it necessary? Didn't it lead to something greater? The same applies now. What's leaving isn't a punishment, it's a redirection. Olivia eventually realized that getting laid off wasn't the disaster she thought it was. It was a gift. And the same goes for you. What's gone is making room for what's next. But you'll never see that if you're too busy staring at what's already left. So the next time you struggle to let go, remind yourself, you're not losing, you're making space. Trust the future. It's already on its way to you. Closing. Letting go isn't about losing, it's about freeing yourself. When you stop clinging to what no longer serves you, you don't fall. You rise. You don't end up empty. You make space for something greater. True freedom begins the moment you stop being a prisoner of your past and a hostage of your fears. You were never meant to hold on to everything. Life moves, people change, and what's meant for you will always find its way. Your only job is to trust, release, and keep moving forward. You don't need to control everything. You just need to master your response. The sooner you stop fighting what's already gone, the sooner you will feel peace. This is Victory Stoic, where you learn to detach, to stand strong, and to reclaim your power. If you're ready to break free, like, share, subscribe, and comment. I choose freedom. Because the moment you let go, you don't lose, you finally win.